Why don't you give us an overview to start off of kind of your take on where things stand today?
I mean, you know, what's happened is that Netanyahu, I mean, assuming the polls 5 days ago were correct, that he was suddenly behind by 4 or 5 seats, he did rally the base and told them, if you vote to my right, which many of them are going to do, then the other guy, Isaac Herzog, will get into power. So you must focus your votes just on Likud. And it worked.
So he didn't win over undecideds or people on the left. He basically got all the people on the right to say, this is the one choice to keep the kind of government you want.
That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. He's a great politician, obviously.
Fantastic.
He doesn't want the Iran deal, but now he faces, as we talked about earlier, incredible hostility, not just from the personalities of the American government, but the possibility that in the UN he'll start to lose. What is his game now internationally?
I mean, I think that Netanyahu does not have a very strong game internationally. I think that he has fundamentally focused on the homeland, and the two parties that he stole from both have home in their name. So I think his goal is to say, look, if he's going to do an international game, it's to say, the stuff going on around us is so much worse than anything that you're going to worry about, a little settlement, a porch in Efrat, or come on, guys. You've got global issues on your plate, and I'm happy to help in those ways. But the idea of a two-state solution right now, while this is all happening, get serious. That's what he's going to say.
Is Mark right about the hostility, though? I mean, I'm just going back to the Netanyahu speech before Congress.
The hostility where?
The hostility from certainly from this administration.
Yes.
But not from Republicans in Congress.
Of course not.
And some Democrats in Congress.
True.
And there's sort of this view that, you know, has he alienated young people in America? Does America still feel the same way toward Israel? And someone said to me, whether you buy it or not, that of course the relationship has never been stronger. Only family members fight this intensely. So I think
there's some truth to that. I think that it is a kind of almost like a marital argument. But the issue of whether support is crumbling in America or being gnawed away, I think there are data to suggest that, yes, among the young, among the liberal, among the well-educated, among Democrats.
Including American Jews.
Including American Jews, there is less support than there has been now. That said, American support for Israel is overwhelming. It's 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1, has been for 60 years, ever since data have existed on this topic. And there's no real decline in that, except if you sort of look at the segments of the young and of liberals. But it's also true that we don't have data on the young from a long time ago, so we don't have a lot to compare it with.
Military option. Let's say there's a deal. I still don't think there will be. Let's say there is. Lots of reporting suggesting that Mossad and the Israeli military says there is no good military option against Iran. Does Netanyahu think there is a military option?
You know, I don't know whether he thinks there is now. He definitely thought there was a couple of years ago. And, you know, there's this whole issue of at some point it becomes impossible for it to work. I think that the general thinking is if absolutely necessary, it can happen. But I kind of agree with that a deal is going to be harder to get than people think.
So if there's a military option, is it to completely eliminate their program or to send a signal to them anywhere you try to build a program will bomb?
I think the idea is to kind of reduce the chances of it happening. So you kind of slow it down. You don't eliminate it. But that's been the kind of Israeli military view over the last years. There's this famous phrase that applies into the West Bank and Gaza of cutting the grass. The idea is it's something you have to keep going at, okay? You're not going to eliminate the problem. You manage the problem. And a lot of people do view the Iran situation as doable in that way. Others say you're crazy. That can never happen. We couldn't possibly do it. It's buried too far underground. We don't have the weapons
and it inflames not just Iran, but the region.
Of course. Yeah. Nobody is advocating it, to be perfectly honest, much right now. Even Netanyahu is not.
Have the chances of getting a deal changed because of the election in any way? Or was it, I mean, it was going to be this no matter what? It was always going to be very hard?
You know, it's a great question because I don't see that who is Prime Minister of Israel is necessarily influencing the negotiations in Lausanne between Iran and the world powers. It's a little hard to see it being that big a deal, particularly because we all know that Herzog and the Labor Party don't like this deal either.
Right.
Has the United States made a mistake? I think they have, in making this seem like it's U.S. versus Israel, rather than the U.S., Russia, Germany, Great Britain. There are other countries here in these negotiations. If there's a deal, it's not just a U.S.-Iran bilateral deal.
That's absolutely true. I mean, I don't know if you're right that that's how they portrayed it. If they portrayed it that way, you're right. They made a mistake. Because it's certainly the world powers who want this. And one of the reasons the U.S. is moving to this deal is because they don't think the rest of those countries are interested in increased sanctions, which is what, by the way, Netanyahu's argument has been, not let's go to war, let's tighten the sanctions. Oil is at half the price it used to be. This is a society
But
reliant.
it'll never keep the Europeans.
Well, exactly. Yeah.